2021 Formula 1 season is finally upon us, with the next instalment promising plenty of hope and expectation in equal measure. As such, the driver lineup promises to be one of the most talented and exciting rosters to date, with this being the final season before the much anticipated and radical regulation changes for 2022. As always, if you like the video, make sure to give it a like and don't forget to subscribe to the DNF1 channel. You know you want to. Without further ado, it's time to meet the teams and drivers competing in the F1 World Championship in 2021.
First of all, we have the reigning and defending champions Mercedes. The Mercedes team have enjoyed an unprecedented period of dominance, the likes of which F1 has never seen before, and if the 2022 regulations have the desired effect, we may never see again. Coming off the back of 7 straight World Drivers and Constructors Championships and winning every championship of the turbo hybrid era since 2014, the only way for Mercedes to surpass their incredible record is to go for a title number 8, and it would take a very brave person to bet against them. Leading the Mercedes charge once again is the reigning world champion and newly knighted Sir Lewis Hamilton. Lewis has been the key to Mercedes' dominance of the turbo hybrid era, winning 6 of the last world championships, surpassing the great Michael Schumacher's F1 race win record in 2020 being a highlight. Lewis will no doubt be the red hot favourite once again to win the 2021 World Championship, with the opportunity to win a record 8th Drivers' World Championship within striking distance, and cementing his place as the outright most successful Formula 1 driver of all time. Teaming up with Formula 1's current greatest of all time is Valtteri Bottas. This will be Valtteri's 5th season with the Mercedes team, and the pressure will be on him to ensure that he will be staying with the Brackley-based outfit beyond this season. Whilst Bottas has proven to be competitively worthy of the seat he currently fills at Mercedes, he has struggled to put together a serious championship challenge against his teammate, and as such, has found himself to be valued more as a number 2 driver, or as Toto once put it, the perfect wingman. Time will tell if Valtteri is able to convince Mercedes he is worthy of keeping his seat beyond 2021, or if it's time for Mercedes to finally promote their future superstar waiting in the line.
Leading the chasing pack this season is Red Bull. After a fairly successful season, Red Bull notched up 2 wins in 2020 with Max Verstappen. Although in fairness, despite being the best of the rest by a country mile, they were still a long way off Mercedes. The 2021 regulations could prove to be a great equaliser for Red Bull, and if the swinging performance is as great as Red Bull hope it will be, 2021 can prove to be their best chance at winning their first title since 2013. Leading the charge will be none other than the Dutch Lion himself, Max Verstappen. Arguably the best driver of his generation, Max Verstappen had his best season to date in 2020, taking 2 victories, including a dominant performance at last season's finale at Abu Dhabi. It's widely believed that Max Verstappen is one of only 2 drivers that could take the fight to Lewis in equal machinery, and perhaps the only realistic challenger to dethrone F1's current king in 2021. A lot of that will depend on whether Max can capitalise on races that he should win rather than could, and if Red Bull can finally provide him with a car fast enough to beat Hamilton and the Mercedes. Alongside Verstappen is Red Bull's newest recruit Sergio Perez. After what seemed for much of 2020 that his F1 career was hanging by a thread, Sergio Perez produced some magical performances at Racing Point in 2020, including an incredible win at the Sakir Grand Prix after falling to 18th place on the first lap. While Sergio Perez will have the unpopular task of trying to match his teammates' blistering pace on a race-by-race basis, Perez has proven he is more than capable of not only rivaling his illustrious teammate, but also playing a role in taking the fight to Mercedes. Could this finally be Red Bull's year? Only time will tell.
The only way is up right now at McLaren. After a strong 2020 season, saw them finish as the leading midfield team and also achieve highest position in the Constructors' Championship since 2012. After unsuccessful spells with Honda and Renault, McLaren will be returning to using Mercedes engine for the first time since 2015. Despite losing Carlos Sainz to Ferrari, McLaren have managed to secure a more than suitable replacement in Daniel Ricciardo. The aim for McLaren will most likely be to retain their position as kings of the midfield, but may also be looking at snapping at the heels of Red Bull ahead of the 2022 reset. Replacing Carlos Sainz at McLaren for 2021 is Daniel Ricciardo. This has proven to be quite a coup for McLaren, and Daniel arguably at the peak of his powers following a successful 2020 season with Renault. 2021 will be another season of change for Daniel, but despite the adjustment period he will face in the McLaren, it shouldn't be too long before he gets up to speed. Starting his third season with a Woking-based outfit is Lando Norris. After a decent season in 2020, Norris scored his first podium in 2020 at the Austrian Grand Prix and was able to show improvements in his performances compared to 2019. 2021 will be another season where Lando will be expecting to add to his F1 portfolio even further, and the McLaren team will hope that he can play an equal part in ensuring McLaren stay ahead of his midfield rivals.
Arguably the most anticipated rebrand of an F1 team in 2021, Aston Martin has finally joined F1's ranks with renewed hope and great long-term expectation. With the increased investment and influence of team owner Lawrence Stroll, there is a strong belief that Aston Martin could become one of the leading teams in F1 within the next few seasons. One of the key components of the Aston Martin success story is the signing of four-time world champion Sebastian Vettel. After a 6-season period at Ferrari, Vettel joins Aston Martin on the back of his most underwhelming season in F1 to date. Despite only scoring one podium in 2020, Vettel spent more time languishing at the back of the field than fighting at the front where you'd expect him to be. A lot of this has been put down to Vettel's knocking confidence, following his unceremonious dismissal from Ferrari, and also his struggles to adjust to driving a terrible car like his former teammate Charles Leclerc did. The hope of many in F1 is that a new challenging environment will reinvigorate the Vettel of old and take Aston Martin to that next level. Alongside Vettel this season is Lance Stroll. Despite some believing that Lance is only in the Aston Martin because his dad owns the team, the first half of 2020 saw Lance showcase some impressive speed and performances. Despite his level dropping towards the end of the season, Lance showed his quality by securing his first pole position of his career in Turkey, and led that race for some time before a strategy error cost him an opportunity for the win. 2021 will be a tough season to predict for Aston Martin's driver lineup, but for now, the signs look pretty good, and the Aston Martin F1 project is now well underway.
The second of F1's two team rebrandings in 2021 is at the Alpine team, formerly known as Renault. Whilst Renault will leave the sport as a manufacturer team, they will be supplying the engines for Alpine, as well as sharing their vast F1 knowledge and experience with their French-based partners. Whilst the fan interest will most likely focus elsewhere in 2021, there is plenty to be excited about, as Alpine will aim to go better than their predecessors did. The biggest reason for excitement at Alpine in 2021 is the return of two-time world champion Fernando Alonso. After his retirement at the end of the 2018 season, it felt more like a sabbatical, and it always seemed to be the possibility that Fernando had unfinished business. Alonso will be looking to show F1's current generation that there is still some life and importantly speed in the old dog yet. Teaming up with Fernando Alonso in 2021 is Esteban Ocon. After rejoining F1 with Renault following a year on the sidelines, Esteban will be looking to carry over his end of season form, which saw him score a podium at last season's Sakir Grand Prix in 2021. It will be interesting to see if Alpine provide the same level of support to Ocon that they do in Alonso. But one thing is for sure, if Alpine are going to win the midfield battle in 2021, they're going to need both their drivers at the top of their game.
Reeling off the back of their worst season in F1 since finishing 10th in 1980, Ferrari will be looking to banish their woeful 2020 season from the memory banks and return to F1's elite in 2021. With the gulf to Mercedes and Red Bull widening in 2020 and having to spend the entire winter break finding solutions to its below-par engine and car performance, fighting for third overall and winning the midfield battle is a much more realistic aim for Ferrari than competing for a world championship in 2021. And given the elite resources Ferrari has at its disposal compared to its midfield rivals, not only are Ferrari more than capable of winning the midfield battle and securing third in this season's Constructors' Championship, but it absolutely has to. Leading the Scuderia's resurgence in 2021 is Charles Leclerc. Like Max Verstappen, Leclerc has been tipped by many to be one of the leading protagonists of F1's next generation, and has certainly showcased in 2019 and 2020 why he's without question the top dog at Ferrari. Whilst his former teammate Vettel struggled with last year's SF1000, Leclerc managed to drag the car to a few podium finishes and several impressive qualifying performances, most notably the 4th place he managed in qualifying for the Sakir Grand Prix. If Ferrari can provide a much more competitive car and engine for 2021, Leclerc should have a much easier time leading Ferrari out of the midfield and back at the front of the pack where it belongs. Replacing the 4-time world champion Sebastian Vettel is Carlos Sainz. Sainz had an extremely successful 2020, almost winning at Monza no less, which justified the decision Ferrari made in February last year to sign him to replace Vettel. Whilst it's hard to tell how he will adjust and compare to his new teammate Leclerc, Sainz is a strong driver with a great work ethic who does not scare so easily. The prospect of an inter-team battle at Ferrari between Leclerc and Sainz for supremacy is a mouth-watering one indeed, not because Sainz will want to, but because he absolutely will have to eventually. But there is no doubt that Ferrari have two of the very best young drivers in F1 with the maturity, skill and racecraft prowess that arguably makes this Ferrari's strongest and most exciting driver lineups in years.
Rounding up the final team from F1's midfield in 2020 is Alfa Tauri. Don't let its 7th place constructors finish fool you. There were plenty of occasions where Alfa Tauri could even boast to have been the 3rd fastest car on the grid in 2020. Of course, the highlight of the team's 2020 season came at the Italian Grand Prix, where Pierre Gasly won his maiden F1 victory, 12 years after Sebastian Vettel achieved the same feat at the same venue during his Toro Rosso days. Whilst it doesn't boast the resources its midfield rivals enjoy, Alfa Tauri will be looking to impress in 2021 once again, and it certainly has the driver lineup to turn heads and climb F1's midfield. First up we have Pierre Gasly. After a difficult 2019 which saw Gasly not only lose his Red Bull seat, he also had a personal fight on his hands after losing his best friend, the late Antoine Hubert, following a fatal crash at the 2019 F2 Belgian Grand Prix. Pierre showed an incredibly strong character to come back in 2020 and put together a string of performances that not only saw him feature regularly in the points positions but also take his maiden victory in Monza. It was a truly beautiful sporting moment shared and celebrated by all who witnessed it. Now his former suitors Red Bull have opted for Perez in 2021, it seems likely that Pierre's chances of returning to Red Bull are slimmer than an F1 rear wing at the tempo of speed. Therefore, it seems likely that Pierre Gasly's final year at Alfa Tauri could be in 2021, meaning his motivations could switch towards securing a move to a new team in 2022. In the other Alfa Tauri seat we have the first of our F1 rookies for 2021, Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda enjoyed an impressive debut season in F2, finishing 3rd in the championship behind Callum Ilott and F2 champion Mick Schumacher. Whilst it was suspected for some time that Tsunoda would be replacing Danny Kvyat for 2021, Yuki has shown plenty of qualities to suggest that he is ready for the opportunity. Tsunoda comes with plenty of potential and Alfa Tauri will expect big things from their new recruit. Alfa Romeo didn't have too much to worry about in 2020. Comfortably the leading team of the F1 backmarkers, Alfa Romeo enjoyed a relatively quiet season compared to its rivals, picking up a few point scoring finishes in 2020, including a double points finish at the Imola Grand Prix. Alfa Romeo are not expected to challenge the midfield any more than they did in 2021, and it's more likely that with the increased technical involvement for their rivals at Haas and Williams from Ferrari and Mercedes respectively, Alfa Romeo could find themselves descending to the very back of the grid. For the 3rd year running, Alfa Romeo will be keeping the same driver lineup for 2021, with only Mercedes boasting a longer one at present. This will be headed by F1's most experienced driver and 2007 world champion Kimi Raikkonen. The Iceman is famously referred to racing in F1 as a hobby these days, and whilst the F1 fans love having Kimi on the grid, it's very likely that 2021 will be the final chapter of the Iceman's F1 career. Let's hope he can give us a few more legendary moments to remember him by. His teammate Antonio Giovinazzi will likely have to fight for his life to save his F1 career in 2021, and even that may not be enough. Whilst 2020 was an improvement for Gio, he has fallen out of favour with the Ferrari Drivers Academy pecking order, and this season could turn out to be a make or break season for his F1 career, with new Ferrari development driver Callum Ilott and F2 stars Robert Schmaltzman and Marcus Armstrong waiting in the wings.
Looking to improve on an otherwise difficult 2020 season will be Haas. Despite the uncertainty of Haas committing its future to F1 beyond 2020, Haas will be looking for a huge turn up in fortune, with a return to F1's midfield being the short-term goal. Haas are the only team on the grid to boast an all-new driver lineup for 2021, and with the increased technical involvement they will embrace from Ferrari, confidence will be high that Haas can climb up the F1 pecking order once again. 8 years after his legendary father Michael Schumacher drove his final race in F1, Last season's F2 champion Mick Schumacher will be looking to make a similar impact that his father did during his debut almost 30 years ago. Whilst the pressure of racing with Formula One's most famous name being ever present during his rookie season, Mick has already shown his own racing chops with a successful junior career, winning the F3 and F2 championships in 3 seasons. Time will tell how Mick's F1 career will develop, with not only the entire F1 world following his progress with a microscope, but more importantly his parent Suze's Ferrari, hoping to once again have a Schumacher race in F1 for Ferrari. Alongside Mick Schumacher is the final rookie for F1 in 2021, Nikita Mazepin. You will go some way to find a greater contrast in fan interest between 2 drivers in the same team this season, as Nikita Mazepin has already made headlines before he has even turned a wheel. Despite how fans feel Nikita earned his seat in Formula 1, it will be very important for Nikita to showcase the qualities that made him a title contender in F2 last season, with beating teammate Mick Schumacher being the main objective for 2021. Last but certainly not least is Williams. After a pointless 2020 campaign, new owners Dorilton Capital will be hoping the Williams revival project will take its first steps in 2021. Buoyed by the new investment and technical partnership with Mercedes growing from 2022 onwards, Williams will be hoping to continue its development with the current car and turn some near misses from 2020 into point scoring finishes in 2021. Like Alfa Romeo, Williams are fielding an unchanged lineup for 2021. However, it's unlikely that this driver lineup will remain unchanged for 2022. Leading the Williams revival once again is George Russell. After an impressive second half to the 2020 season, George Russell had excruciating near misses of points finishes in Mugello and Imola. However, due to the unforeseen absence of Lewis Hamilton owing to COVID-19, George was given a unique opportunity to drive the champions Mercedes W11 at the Sakir Grand Prix. During this weekend, George narrowly missed out on pole position to his teammate Valtteri Bottas and had him beat all ends up and looked on course to win that race. Sadly, however, the dream turned into a nightmare, and a combination of poor pit stops from Mercedes and a slow puncture robbed George of his first F1 win, but would still go on to score his first points in F1. George Russell has been tipped by many as the British successor to Lewis Hamilton, and 2022 will be a huge season for George, as he will be looking to knock down the door at Mercedes and hoping to leave them with no choice but to give him a seat with the team in 2022. And if that doesn't work, there's always PowerPoint. On the other side of the Williams garage we have Nicholas Latifi. This will be Latifi's second season in F1, and he will be looking to further raise his stock amongst F1's hierarchy against a rapidly improving teammate like George Russell. Latifi seems the more likely contributor to Williams' long-term project, so it will be important for Nicholas to have a strong 2021 season and maybe get amongst the points as well. So that's a complete roster of teams and drivers for the 2021 World Championship. Coming into the final season before the heavily anticipated regulation changes, let's hope that 2021 can be just as exciting. Let us know your predictions for the 2021 season in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the DNF1 YouTube channel. As always, thanks for tuning in, stay safe, and we'll see you in the next DNF1 video.